back. So I had to jump on a few meetings, but I could not get my mind off of what we shared earlier. If you weren't here earlier and you need to be caught up, my name is Zakia Ringgold, and we are exploring a couple of content creation tools. And if you missed the video earlier, I would highly, highly suggest that you watch that one after you watch this one. This is going to be more of an over the shoulder kind of broadcast, so you can see how I'm taking one piece of content, which started out as a timeline, which then turned into a blog that I put into an AI tool that now has created a podcast. But everything that's created by AI doesn't mean that you just pull it and then paste it somewhere else. So what we're going to do is we're going to use yet another tool to take that and create a podcast episode. So if you are someone who is creating podcasts or just creating content, I'm hoping that you will find value in this particular episode. I think I can actually have some background music for you all that you can listen to. Let's see, maybe the chill one as we work, so you can kind of see what my process is. I don't really like chill. Let's figure out down tempo. Yeah, down tempo works. Be sure to put in the comments if you have any questions that I can delve a little bit deeper in. I will probably pause before I actually end the broadcast. So I might need to turn that music down just a bit when I'm talking. I have to pause because I notice it cuts me off instantly, and that's when a lot of your questions were coming up on the last broadcast. So I do want to make sure that I leave time and space to see those questions if you have them. Alrighty, so let me go ahead and switch over. Make this a little bigger for me. And what you're looking at here is the Notebook LM, which is a Google product. It's AI. We took our blog post, we just pasted the text in there, and it created a podcast episode where it was like a detailed deep dive where the AI actually created something that sounded really human in terms of the podcast episode. So what we're going to do is go ahead and download that so that we can now import it. Oh, I think I did download it. No, I didn't. Okay. So while that's downloading, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the other tools that we're going to use for this editing part. So in order to create that podcast, the only thing we did was uploaded our blog post. Once we uploaded the blog post, it created this podcast episode, which is 18 minutes long. We never just copy and paste and just put that out there. We want to put our own spin on it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my other tool, which is Treble. Treble is a video and audio editing tool that allows you to either import or you can record directly in the tool. Now, the reason I like Treble and the reason I've used it for all of my podcasts is I'm not an audio engineer by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes we have background noises. I say a lot of ums and ahs and really uncomfortable pauses sometimes when I'm recording. In Treble, and I don't know if you can hear, but there's like the radiator is making a noise too. So I use Treble to get rid of that so I get a really crisp sound. I also use it to insert some additional content. Like, you know how sometimes you'll record something and you have that, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that. Instead of re-recording the whole thing, you just find the space where you want to add that and you can insert your additional talking points right there within it, all editing it so that you can then export a podcast episode. So we're going to use the import mode, and you can import both audio and video into Treble. So I'm going to grab that founder story and open that up, and then I'll say next. And then you have the ability to transcribe the audio. And so I'm going to go ahead and choose my language. So there are multiple languages here. Again, accessibility, accessibility, accessibility. Special shout out to Treble. They were a sponsor for Handcrafted Live. Armel, the founder, we did a podcast interview with him. He is amazing. But you'll get a chance to see just how awesome this tool is in a moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on transcribe. And as you can see, it's pretty quick in terms of it, depending on, of course, the length of your video. So it's going through that transcription process. And when it does, or once it finishes, I'm going to come back to the Notebook LM. So we have this founder story here, and then there are details. We can ask it more questions and all of that. And as we can see, I'm not going to do the tour, but I'll talk through some of the things. So right here, as you can see, if I highlight a section, I can delete it, I can play it, I can do other elements to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I normally do in terms of adding some additional audio ahead of this to kind of set the stage for what we're doing. All right, so let's go ahead and insert, and we're going to record and insert right before this selection. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Business Tech Unraveled. I'm your host, Zakia Ringgold, and like many of you entrepreneurs, you are constantly focused on, is your message resonating? Well, in this episode, we are going to show you how we take a single blog post and convert it into a full-blown content story. And this is actually leveraging a new tool that I found, which is called Notebook LM. So in a few moments, we're actually going to get the audio that was recorded using AI. And it came specifically from my blog post on building a business with purpose. Now, you can go and read that blog post at zakiaringgold.com, but some people don't want to read a blog post. They actually want to listen to the Cliff Notes, or they just would rather listen than read pages and pages about a founder story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop yapping and let you listen to that really quick. Well, it's not quick, but it's long enough. I'm going to let you listen to that, and I'm going to drop in some additional notes as we listen to it. Now, one thing is we don't just want to just pull whatever AI gives us and put it right into whatever our content stream is. It has to make sense for our business. So that got me to thinking, while they are having this conversation, the AI, right? I keep saying they like they're actual people. But what you're about to hear is AI actually going through and pulling out the salient points of that podcast or of that blog post in the form of a podcast. So at different points when they got it wrong or they got it right, I'll come and give a little bit of backstory about what it is that they're sharing. I hope you enjoy. And so now what I have done is I have recorded some of that initial conversation that's going to go on with this podcast. So let's go ahead and play it from the beginning. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Business Tech Unraveled. I'm your host, Zakia Ringgold, and like many of you entrepreneurs, you are constantly focused on, is your message resonating? Well, in this episode, we are going to show you how we take a single blog post and convert it into a full-blown content story. And this is actually leveraging a new tool that I found, which is called Notebook LM. So in a few moments, we're actually going to get the audio that was recorded using AI. And it came specifically from my blog post on building a business with purpose. Now, you can go and read that blog post at zakiaringgold.com, but some people don't want to read a blog post. They actually want to listen to the Cliff Notes, or they just would rather listen than read pages and pages about a founder story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop yapping and let you listen to that really quick. Well, it's not quick, but it's long enough. I'm going to let you listen to that, and I'm going to drop in some additional notes as we listen to it. Now, one thing is we don't just want to just pull whatever AI gives us and put it right into whatever our content stream is. It has to make sense for our business. So that got me to thinking, while they are having this conversation, the AI, right? I keep saying they like they're actual people. But what you're about to hear is AI actually going through and pulling out the salient points of that podcast or of that blog post in the form of a podcast. So at different points when they got it wrong or they got it right, I'll come and give a little bit of backstory about what it is that they're sharing. I hope you enjoy.
All right, so today we're gonna
I love the transition, but it needs a little bit of space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click transcribe so that we actually have the language there, because again, this is content that breeds content that breeds content, right? And this is just that one piece, but I want to always be able to use these transcriptions in the remainder of what I create. Now, what is a podcast without some of that background music? Nothing, right? So I'm going to go ahead and grab this part right here, and I'm going to insert audio in background. What I love about Treble is that it gives us several pieces of content that we could use. I don't remember which one I normally use for Business Tech Unraveled. Is it Burrow? Yeah, we'll use Burrow. And then what I'll do is I'm going to lower the volume so that it doesn't drown me out, typically to a 7. And then we also need a little bit of fading action going on in there. So I'm going to fade it in for 2 seconds, and I'm going to fade it out for 2 seconds as well. And I'm going to delete. And I hope what you're noticing about this tool is there's no timeline for me to move things around. I can use it just like a Word document, which is really native to how I like to, oh, no, your selection cannot be deleted. I didn't want to. I want to delete this. There we go. All right, so now let's see what happens with that background music.
we're gonna do
No. Got to come to the beginning. Got to tell it where you want it to play from. So let's play from here.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Business Tech Unraveled. I'm your host, Zakia Ringgold, and like many of you entrepreneurs, you are constantly focused on, is your message resonating? Well, in this episode, we are going to show you how we take a single blog post and convert it into a full-blown content story. And this is actually leveraging a new tool that I found, which is called Notebook LM. So in a few moments, we're actually going to get the audio that was recorded using AI. And it came specifically from my blog post on building a business with purpose. Now, you can go and read that blog post at zakiaringgold.com, but some people don't want to read a blog post. They actually want to listen to the Cliff Notes, or they just would rather listen than read pages and pages about a founder story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop yapping and let you listen to that really quick. Well, it's not quick, but it's long enough. I'm going to let you listen to that, and I'm going. So that is unnecessary, right? So I can pull this part out and stop yapping right here. So I'm going to grab this part and just delete it. So that's getting rid of some of the unnecessary. So let's play this here to make sure. I'm going to play from here to make sure it's okay. I'm going to stop yapping. I'm going to let you listen to that, and I'm going to drop in some additional notes as we listen to it. Now, one thing is we don't just want to just pull whatever AI gives us and put it right into whatever our content stream is. It has to make sense for our business. So that got me to thinking, while they are having this conversation, the AI, right? I keep saying they like they're actual people. But what you're about to hear is AI actually going through and pulling out the salient points of that podcast.
So I said podcast by accident, but it should have been the blog. So instead of salient points of, I'm just going to delete this here and press play again.
Points of that blog post in the form of a podcast. So at different points when they got it wrong or they got it right, I'll come and give a little bit of backstory about what it is that they're sharing. I hope you enjoy.
Now, I said I was going to stop yapping and then continued yapping. So I am going to move that section right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop yapping and I'm going to let you listen to that, right? So I want to move this section by just doing a cut, similar to you would in a Word document. And I'm going to move it to where I actually stop yapping, okay? So at a different point, blah, 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 blah. I'll come back and give you a little bit of backstory about what it is, what they're sharing. I hope you enjoy. So I'm going to put that here and just do a paste. So I don't know what audio editing tool just lets you cut and paste and move it exactly where you want it, but that's what we just did. I just wanted to find that section, or they could just rather listen. And I say this again down there, so we don't need it. Let me delete this.
Pages about a founder story. Now, one thing is we don't just want to just pull whatever AI gives us and put it right into whatever our content stream is. It has to make sense for our business. So that got me to thinking, while they are having this conversation, the AI, right? I keep saying they like they're actual people. But what you're about to hear is AI actually going through and pulling out the salient points of that blog post in the form of a podcast. So at different points when they got it wrong or they got it right, I'll come and give a little bit of backstory about what it is that they're sharing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop yapping. I'm going to let you listen to that. I hope you enjoy.
All right, so today we're gonna do a deep dive into this fascinating story we found.
It's be good.
About this woman Zakia and how she went from like making soap in her basement to
Wow,
running all these like online businesses. It's pretty wild.
that's quite a journey.
It is, yeah. And we've got this this really in-depth blog post about her whole story.
Okay.
And it's really interesting how she like connected all these different things together. It's like she's got this whole ecosystem of entrepreneurship going on.
Yeah, like it's more than just a timeline, right?
Yeah.
It's like seeing how she put all these different pieces together.
Exactly. Yeah, so it all starts with Natural Soap by Zakia, which, I mean,
Catchy name.
right,
So-
like it's like a brand name just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But it didn't start out as like some big business idea. It actually came from a pretty tough time in her life. She was dealing with postpartum depression.
Oh wow.
And yeah, she found that making soap was like a really therapeutic outlet for her. It gave her something to focus on and be creative with.
That's so interesting how sometimes like the most unexpected things can turn into a business. You know,
Yeah.
like something that starts as a personal need can blossom into something much bigger.
Totally. And then she discovered this thing called live streaming, which like back then was not really a thing.
No, not at all.
This was way before, everybody and their dog was going live on TikTok.
Right.
And I'm curious like what made her think that live streaming was going to be big.
Well, I think she was already kind of ahead of the curve in terms of connecting with people online. You know, she was sharing her craft, building a community, and live streaming was just like this natural extension of that.
It's like she had this instinct to share her process in real time.
All right, so here is where they kind of got it right and they kind of got it wrong. And I'm wondering if adding a little piece, but I think it's going to break the flow. So this is where just kind of considering how that will break up the listening for people who are listening to it. So I'm going to, so he says, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think people were totally drawn to that. It was like they were getting a glimpse behind the scenes. Okay, I'm going to go here. And I'm going to say insert audio before this selection. Oh, I got to record. Sorry. Wrong tool. Record and insert. Well, you kind of got it right. The real reason I started using live streaming was that I thought I was going to take it back to corporate America. However, that didn't actually work out the way that I thought it would. And it was me interacting on live streaming that started to open my eyes to the ability to build community. So you almost got it, but not quite, but pretty good so far. So let's add that in there. Yeah, I feel like that's going to break the content up. So maybe we won't do that. Where did we insert it? And I love how the AI is using ums, which makes it sound a little more natural. Now, where did it put it? Natural, oh cool. Teaching them how to make soap. Did it put it all the way at the beginning? Brand name. Yeah, I think it put it all the way at the beginning.
Well, hello everyone.
No,
Welcome
that's
to
not where it put it. Did I cancel? I don't know where it went, guys. Everybody and their dog. How sometimes like the most unexpected. And yeah, she found therapeutic. Totally. No, not at all. This was way before. Okay, let's come here.
Thing called live streaming, which like back then was not really a thing.
No, not at all.
This was way before, everybody and their dog was going live on TikTok.
Right.
And I'm curious of what made her think that live streaming was going to be big.
Well, I think she was already kind of ahead of the curve in terms of connecting with people online. She was sharing her craft, building a community, and live streaming was just like this natural extension of that.
It's like she had this instinct to share her process in real time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think people were really drawn to that authenticity. It was like they were getting a glimpse behind the scenes.
Oh, true. And then get this. She needed a website for her business. But this was back in the day when building a website was like a major undertaking.
Oh, yeah. You could just like drag and drop things back
There
then.
was no way. You had to know like code and all this complicated stuff. But instead of freaking out, she turned to the online community she had already built through live streaming.
That's smart.
Right. It's like she instinctively understood the power of networking, even in those early days of the internet.
Yeah, she was resourceful. She didn't let a lack of technical skills hold her back.
And it paid off big time because her online store launched and she got like 100 orders on the first day.
Wow, 100 orders. That's incredible.
I know, right? It's like she was a natural at this whole online business thing.
She was definitely onto something.
But this is just the beginning of her story.
Oh, I know. There's so much more to come.
Because this soap making success is about to level up in some major ways.
Yeah, she doesn't stop there. She's just getting started.
All right, so tell me what happens next.
Well, so she's got the successful soap business going, but she's not content with just selling soap. She wants to do more.
Okay, so what does she do?
She decides to start sharing her knowledge and empowering other soap makers.
Oh, cool. Like teaching them how to make soap.
Exactly. And that's how Live Soap School was born.
So it was like her live streams morphed into a full-blown online school.
Yeah, it was a natural progression. She was already teaching people through her live streams. So why not formalize it a bit?
Did she have any teaching experience before this?
What's interesting is she didn't.
See, here is where I would want to correct it, but I'm not sure why. But she had a passion. I'm going to put it here. Let's see what it does. Insert. Yeah, I actually did have a background in teaching. This is where I tapped into that corporate experience that I talk about in the core values. And this is also how I knew to merge a learning management system with that content. But yes, I do love teaching. I used to actually teach my doll babies when I was like 6 or 7 years old. But you're close. All right. And if I say done, now it put it there. So I'm not sure. Now let's see how that comes.
You know what's interesting is she didn't, but she had this passion for sharing what she knew.
Yeah.
And that's what really mattered.
It's like she was a natural teacher.
Yeah, I actually did have a background in teaching. This is where I tapped into that corporate
Yeah, I don't
experience
like
that I
that.
talk
It's
about
like
in
a
the
weird
core
break.
values. And this is also how I knew to merge a learning management system with that content. But yes, I do love teaching. I used to actually teach my doll babies when I was like 6 or 7 years old. But you're close.
So I don't like the experience of that where it kind of just breaks it. So I think what I'm going to do for these is only add context and content at the beginning of the podcast and at the end of what was created. I did also notice that the Notebook LM also um, it kind of repeats itself, and we'll see that towards the end. I think it's just trying to make it a certain length. So using a tool like this will help me make sure that nothing is being repeated multiple times. So let's keep going.
Format of cookbooks was so smart. It's
Okay, wait, we skipped something. All right, let me stop here.
Explaining things in a way that was easy to understand.
And she didn't stop there. She also wrote and self-published 4 books in the new Soap Makers Cookbook series.
Self-published, so she was doing everything herself.
Yeah, she was like a one-woman show. She was cutting out the middleman and controlling her own distribution.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
He was thinking way ahead of the game.
I know, right? And the format of cookbooks was so smart. It's accessible, it's practical, and it totally resonated with her audience.
Like she knew exactly what her customers wanted.
And she was always looking for new ways to connect with them. So she also started a podcast called A Soap Maker's Tale, where she interviewed other soap makers and shared their stories.
Oh, cool. So she was like amplifying the voices of her community.
Exactly. It wasn't just about her own success anymore. It was about lifting up the entire soap making community.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
It's like she was building this whole movement.
It really is.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that she was already using all these digital platforms that would become even more crucial during the pandemic. It's like she was unknowingly preparing for a future where online connection would be everything.
It's like she had a crystal ball or something.
I know, right? But little did she know that the world was about to change in a big way and her journey would take another unexpected turn.
Yeah, the pandemic threw everyone for a loop, but the Kia was ready for it.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat now. Tell me what happens next.
Well, it all starts with her having a whole bunch of in-person conferences lined up,
Oh,
all of which get canceled because of the pandemic.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a major setback for a lot of people.
but Zakia saw it as an opportunity.
Really? How so?
Well, she'd already been doing all this stuff online, so she was like, why not just move everything virtual?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But was everyone else on board with that?
Not at first.
Okay, I can imagine that.
Yeah, it was March 2020, and everyone was still figuring out how to use Zoom.
Right.
But Zakia had a vision, and she knew she could make it work.
So what did she do?
She decided to create a virtual leadership training for her team, and it was a huge success.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, and it gave her the confidence to take things even further. So she launched the Virtual Soap Summit, which was a huge online event for soap makers and creators who'd been impacted by the pandemic.
That's so cool. So she was not only adapting to the new reality, but she was also helping others do the same.
Exactly, and it was a huge success.
I bet. And this is where Vita comes in, right? Her virtual experience design agency.
Is VD grew out of that Virtual Soap Summit,
Yeah.
and it quickly became the go-to agency for designing and producing amazing virtual events. Wow, so she was like a pioneer in the virtual event space.
Yeah, she was way ahead of the curve.
And she insisted on having live interaction in all of her events. No pre-recorded sessions allowed.
That's so important. You know, that human connection is what makes virtual events really.
It's doing something weird there.
And she insisted on having live interaction in all of her events. No pre-recorded sessions allowed.
That's so important. That human connection is what makes virtual events really special.
Totally. It's what sets them apart from just watching a video.
Exactly. So, yeah, Zakia is really committed to creating engaging and interactive virtual experiences.
That's incredible. But her entrepreneurial journey doesn't end there, does it?
Oh, no, not even close. There's one more piece of her story that I think is particularly fascinating.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, you know how we've been talking about all these different ventures, all these seemingly separate businesses?
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a deeper connection there, a thread that ties them all together.
Okay, spill the tea. What's this deeper connection?
It's all about purpose. It's like each of Zakia's businesses was born from a challenge she faced personally.
I see that.
But instead of just solving it for herself, she turned it into a way to help others.
That's beautiful.
It's like this ripple effect of problem solving. She takes a challenge, turns it into a solution, and then shares that solution with the world.
I love that.
So, for example, Natural Soap by Zakia started with her own need for self-care.
Right.
Then Live Soap School came from her desire to share her knowledge and empower other makers.
And then Vita grew out of the pandemic, wiping out in-person events.
Exactly. It's like she was constantly looking for ways to turn obstacles into opportunities.
And even Business Tech Lab stemmed from that experience in her high school computer class, where she saw how a lack of access to technology could hold people back.
Right. It's like she took that personal experience and turned it into a mission to help others.
That's so powerful.
It really is. And it's what makes her story so inspiring.
So what are some of the big takeaways you see here?
Well, for starters, she's a living example of how you don't need some grand master plan to become an entrepreneur.
That's encouraging.
Sometimes it's about starting small, addressing a personal need, and seeing where that takes you.
I like that. And she wasn't afraid to try new things, like live streaming way before it was cool.
Right. She was a trailblazer.
And that curiosity and willingness to experiment really paid off for her.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the power of community.
Oh, yeah. She built those connections online, tapped into collective knowledge, and used those relationships to fuel her success.
Exactly.
But there's one more piece of her story that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yes. That's right.
What haven't we covered yet?
Well, we've been talking about all these different ventures, all these seemingly separate businesses, but there's actually a deeper connection there, a thread that ties them all together.
Okay, you've got to tell me, what is it?
It's all about purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah. It's like each of Zakia's businesses was born from a challenge she faced personally. But instead of just solving it for herself, she turned it into a way to help others. It's like this ripple effect of problem solving.
Oh, wow. I see that now.
So Natural Soap by Zakia started with her own need for self-care. Then Live Soap School came from her desire to share her knowledge and empower other makers. And then Vidya grew out of the pandemic, wiping out in-person events. It's like she was constantly looking for ways to turn obstacles into opportunities.
And even Business Tech Lab stemmed from that experience in her high school computer class. It's like she saw firsthand how a lack of access to technology could hold people back, and she made it her mission to bridge that gap.
Exactly.
It's mind-blowing how she managed to weave all these different threads together. It's not just about building separate businesses, it's about creating an ecosystem where everything is connected by this underlying purpose of empowerment and community.
Precisely. And that's what makes her story so inspiring. It's a reminder that we can create businesses that are both successful and meaningful. It's not an either situation. You can pursue your passions, help others, and make a real difference in the world all at the same time.
Her journey is like a masterclass in turning challenges into stepping stones. Each obstacle she faced became the foundation for something new and innovative. It makes you wonder what seemingly impossible hurdles in our own lives might hold the key to our next big breakthrough.
That's the question I always come back to after diving into stories like this. What problem are we facing that could actually be the seed for something incredible? What opportunity are we overlooking because we're too focused on the challenge itself?
It's a powerful reminder to shift our perspective and look for the possibilities hidden within the problems. It's like that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But Zakia took it to a whole new level. She didn't just make lemonade, she built an entire lemonade empire.
So here, you know how we're always looking for audiograms? I'm going to take from here, her journey, blah, 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 blah. Let's grab this. Here. Because somebody in my community actually said Soap Empire. And I'm going to grab this. I'm going to download just that section. And that's going to become an audiogram for this. All right, let's keep going.
And she did it all by embracing curiosity, adapting to change, and building genuine connections. It's a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the incredible things we can achieve when we combine passion with purpose.
If you're feeling inspired to dive deeper into Zakia's world, we've got links to her websites, books, and podcasts in the show notes. You'll find a wealth of resources and inspiration to spark your own entrepreneurial journey. Or maybe you'll just be inspired to try making your own soap. Who knows? The possibilities are endless.
And remember, you don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't need a perfect plan or $1 million in funding. Sometimes all it takes is a single step, a willingness to learn, and the courage to embrace the unknown.
Zakia's story is proof that anyone can create something extraordinary. It's about following your passions, connecting with others, using your unique skills to make a positive impact on the world. So go out there, find your purpose, and start building your own empire. One soap bar, one live stream, one virtual event at a time.
I love that. One step at a
One step at a time.
So she had all these speaking engagements lined up, right? And then bam, pandemic hit.
Yeah, everything shuts down.
Yep, conferences canceled, events postponed. It was a crazy time.
I bet a lot of people were probably freaking out.
Oh yeah, for sure. But not Zakia.
Really? Why not?
Well, she was already ahead of the game. Remember all that experience she had with Live Soap School and those online workshops?
Oh, right. She was already doing the whole virtual thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic hit, she was like, okay, no problem. We'll just move everything online.
That's so smart. It's like she was prepared for this moment without even realizing it.
Okay, so there were 2 audiograms. I'm sorry, I think I took the video off. So there were 2 audiograms that I wanted to capture. Again, thinking about the repurposing and the long-term use of the content and getting the most traction out of it as possible. Let's see here. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll back up. And as you listen to your podcast or rewatch your videos, you want to look for those key points that could either inspire someone or kind of draws them in to what it is that you're sharing. I like where he said, you don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't need a perfect plan or $1 million in funding. Sometimes all it takes is a single step. The proof that you can create something extraordinary. It's about following your passions, connecting with others, using your unique skills, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how long that is. Almost a minute. Can I keep going? One step at a time. So she had, okay. I'm going to stop at one step at a time. And I'm going to download that. And I think I grabbed the cell, but that's okay. So that's another one. And so this kind of gets to the back end. So she had all these speaking engagements, conferences. She was already doing the whole virtually thing. Yeah. Exactly. So when the pandemic hit, no problem. We'll move everything online. She was prepared for this moment without even realizing it. I love that quote. So I'm going to grab that one and download that. So all of these are individual clips for just those moments that I want in it. It's like she had a secret weapon up her sleeve. Okay.
It's like she had this secret weapon up her sleeve.
So she just pivoted to virtual events like it was no big deal?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't easy, of course.
Nope.
There's still a lot of challenges, but she had the skills and the mindset to make it work.
What kind of challenges?
Well, for starters, not everyone was comfortable with the whole virtual thing back then. Remember, this was March 2020. We were all still figuring out how to use Zoom without accidentally muting ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Those were the days.
But Zakia had been using virtual tools for years. So she was able to guide her team and her clients through that transition.
It's like she was a virtual event guru before virtual events were even a thing.
Pretty much. And she saw this as an opportunity to help others who were struggling to adapt.
That's amazing. So what does she do?
Well, first she decided to move a leadership training that she was supposed to do in person to a virtual format.
Oh, wow. So she was testing the waters with her own team first.
Exactly. And it was a huge success.
That's great.
Yeah. And it gave her the confidence to launch something even bigger, the Virtual Soap Summit.
The Virtual Soap Summit? What was that?
It was this massive online event specifically for soap makers and creators whose businesses had been impacted by the pandemic.
Oh, wow. So she was using her platform to help others in her community.
Exactly. She knew that a lot of people were losing income and struggling to stay afloat. So she wanted to create an opportunity for them to connect, learn, and support each other.
That's so kind of her. And was
All
it
right, so we're
successful?
gonna
Oh, yeah.
download.
It was a huge hit.
I bet. And
That's another audiogram.
it.
It's like she had this secret weapon up her sleeve.
No,
So
not
she
from
just
there.
pivoted.
Play from here.
That's so kind of her. And was it successful?
Oh, yeah. It was a huge hit.
I bet. And this is where Vidia comes in, right? Her virtual experience design agency.
You got it. Vidia grew out of that virtual soap summit,
Yeah.
and it quickly became the go-to agency for designing and producing incredible virtual events.
So she was like a pioneer in the virtual event space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And she had this really strong belief in the power of live interaction, even in a virtual setting.
What do you mean?
I'm gonna
Like, she insisted on having live elements in every event sessions allowed
Oh, wow. Why was that so important to her?
because she believed that real human connection is what makes virtual events truly special.
That makes sense. You don't want it to just feel like you're watching a video.
Right. You want to feel like you're part of a community, that you're interacting with real people.
And Zakia was really good at creating that sense of community, even in a virtual space.
Yeah, she had a knack for it.
It's amazing how she was able to take something that was born out of necessity and
I'm gonna grab that one. So we've gotten about 6 clips now.
how she was able to take something that was born out of necessity and turn it into this thriving business.
It is. And it's a testament to her adaptability and her vision. She saw an opportunity where others saw a roadblock,
And she didn't just create a business, she created a movement.
a movement of connection and empowerment.
I love that. But her entrepreneurial journey doesn't end there, does it?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
There's one more chapter to this story, and it might be the most inspiring one yet.
Okay. I'm hooked. Tell me more.
Well, we've been talking about all these different ventures, all these seemingly separate businesses.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually a deeper connection there, a thread that ties them all together.
Okay. I'm dying to know. What is it?
It's all about purpose. Purpose, like each of her businesses came from something she was dealing with.
Okay.
But then she was like, how can I use this to help other people too?
So it wasn't just about her own success.
No way. It was bigger than that.
So like Natural Soap by Zakia, that
Yeah.
started because she needed self-care.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Then she had all this knowledge about soap making.
So she started Live Soap School.
Yep. To share what she knew and help other soap makers.
And when the pandemic shut everything down,
She created Vidia virtual events.
it's like she was always turning problems into opportunity.
Totally. And don't forget, Business Tech Lab.
Oh, yeah. That came from her experience in high school.
That's right. She saw how hard it was for people who didn't have access to technology.
And she wanted to make things easier for them.
Yeah.
It's incredible how she connected all these different things.
It really is. It's like she built this whole ecosystem of businesses, all focused on helping people.
And they all grew out of her own experiences.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. It shows you that you can build a successful business and make a difference in the world at the same time.
It's not just about making money.
Nope.
Exactly.
It's about purpose.
Mhm.
It's a
Oh, I love that part. That is the whole ethos of it right there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go from here where he starts off, where it's all about purpose. And this is what you want to do when you are editing podcasts. You want to find those critical gems that really get to the heart of what you want to share with your community. You can pull those out because people don't have time. We are definitely in a TikTok society where give me the cliff notes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, too long, 90 seconds. That's what you're getting from me. And then I'll decide if I want to listen to it further. And so now let's keep going. I think we are almost there.
It's about using your skills and your experiences to help others.
Her story makes you think about the challenges in your own life.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, what problems could we be turning into opportunities?
Exactly. What are we overlooking because we're too focused on the obstacle?
It's like that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Right. But Zakia didn't just make lemonade.
She built a whole lemonade empire.
This is where it seems to be repeating because they were talking about Lemonade Empire earlier on. overlooking because too focused on the obstacle. So I'm going to start deleting this part because that's a repeat, and she shared it with the world. I love that analogy. It's perfect. It's about taking something sour. All right, let's get rid of this. And then we'll be going to lunch in a moment, guys. So this is a day in the life of. So if I don't have a bunch of meetings, I'm creating content. So you're getting a sneak peek at how I go about doing that. Not too sexy and spicy, but I enjoy doing it.
It's perfect. It's about taking something sour and turning it into something sweet and refreshing.
And sharing that sweetness with others.
Exactly.
Zakia's story is proof that anyone can create something amazing.
It's not about having all the answers or...
All right, let's get rid of this. I think it's just kind of repeating there. And what I am really impressed about, most humans cannot pronounce Zakia, and this tool got it right. So shout out to Google for that. I do have other tools where I can change the voices of the narrators in this, but this would be like a 2-hour, 3-hour video if I did that. So we'll just keep going here.
Zakia's story is proof that anyone can create something amazing.
It's not about having all the answers or $1 million.
Yeah. It's about taking that first step.
Being curious, being willing to learn, and embracing the unknown.
And most importantly, it's about finding your purpose and using it to make a positive impact on the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So if you're feeling inspired to learn more about Zakia, we've got links to her websites, her books, and her podcast in the show notes.
Go check them out.
You'll find a ton of resources and inspiration there. Maybe you'll even be inspired to start your own soap making business.
Or who knows? Maybe you'll find your own unique way to turn your passions into a purpose-driven business.
The possibilities are endless.
That's the beauty of it.
So what are you waiting for? Go out there, find your purpose, and start building your own empire. One soap bar, one live stream, one virtual event at a time.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. That's all it takes.
Okay, so I really don't have much to add to that. I was just really impressed on how they were able to really get the crux of it. So maybe the blog, but here is the thing about AI. Junk in, junk out. So you want to make sure that whatever you're feeding the AI tools is really true. You don't have to worry about having the perfect words. These language learning models are getting so intelligent where they are able to really grasp the core meaning and build content around that. So the last thing I'm going to do for this podcast episode is just do a bit of a closing so that my audience continues to hear my voice. So I'm going to say insert and record. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed that episode. So if you didn't feel like, or you didn't get a chance to read the entire blog post, that was AI. That was all AI driven, where it took what it found in this blog post to share with all of you in an audio format. So if you are interested in trying out Notebook LM, which is a tool that I use, you can just head over to notebooklm.google.com. I'm not sure of the website, but just type it in Google. I'm sure it will be #1 in the search terms. And as they mentioned, all of the links will be available in the show notes. I'm Zakia, and thank you for listening to Business Tech Unraveled. I'll see you on the next episode. And done. So now that's going to record, append that to the end of the podcast, and then we're going to add our background music to it. I hope it did. Don't make me a liar. Oh, it made me a liar, guys. Let's try again. All right, you've got a chance to listen to what AI created just from pasting in a blog post. I hope that you are inspired to create your own podcast episode or deep dive using Notebook LM. You can find links to all of that, like they mentioned, in the show notes for the blog post. Head over to zakiaringold.com and get all of that information. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and you'll hear me on the next episode. All right, let's see what it does. It did it. Yay! All right, let's transcribe it just so that I can add the background music, make it English. And let's see how that sounds at the end. Well, let's go ahead and add our background music. I didn't say my name. Oh, I did. Okay. And we're going to insert audio in the background. I think we were using Dirt Bike. Let's change that sound. We're going to fade it in for 2 seconds. We're going to fade it out for 2 or 3 seconds, and then we're going to add just a little bit of padding so it doesn't just cut me off. And let's play it from here.
One step at a time, that's all it takes.
Right, you've got a chance to listen to what AI created just from pasting in a blog post. I hope that you are inspired to create your own podcast episode or deep dive using Notebook LM. You can find links to all of that, like they mentioned, in the show notes for the blog post. Head over to zakiaringold.com and get all of that information. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and you'll hear me on the next episode.
I just gotta make sure it's the same intro and outro music, but I am going to let that be if it is. No, I used Burrow. Darn it. Let's switch that. Insert audio. Where are you, Burrow? There we go. And now let's change that volume. A fade in, fade out, and pad. So that's a 20-minute podcast episode. Let's see how it sounds.
One step at a time, that's all it takes.
Right, you've got a chance to listen to what AI created just from pasting in a blog post. I hope that you are inspired to create your own podcast episode or deep dive using Notebook LM. You can find links to all of that, like they mentioned.
I don't like how... I'm just going to copy this silence. Oh. All right, let me find some more silence in this. And I'm just going to paste that right here. It's a little bit more silent so it's not so abrupt.
One step at a time, that's all it takes.
Right, you've got a chance
I don't know about
to...
that dum-dum. Oh, that won't work. I gotta get rid of it. Sorry. I thought it was like a clean silence. So I gotta check with Armel on adding silence. Like sometimes we want to get rid of silence. So just one other feature of Treble that I want to share with you all is that it does have the ability to find filler words, find silences and remove them, any speech anomalies. So maybe you're interviewing a guest and one of your voices is, or I'm sorry, maybe you repeat yourself. You can also enhance the speech with Vocal Glow, and that's also using AI. And then you can also remove any background noise. I'm not going to apply any of those. I'm just going to go ahead and say next. And I'm going to call this one Founder Story Post and finish. Now, once that finishes, I'll be able to go ahead and download it. So I'm hoping that it wasn't too long. Well, we're almost at an hour, so it was long. But you can see how just creating the one piece of content, we've now gone from a blog post to a podcast that will now turn into various audio clips that we are able to use across the platforms. So I have those various clips. Maybe I'll re-record them in my own voice. I'm not sure, but hopefully you can see just how powerful AI is becoming for turning your content into something that is extremely valuable, if not valuable, thought-provoking, or something that can inspire someone else to share their story in one way, shape, or form. Thank you for joining me on the live stream. It is definitely lunchtime, and I'll talk to you all on another episode.